Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. And I've been asked to perform an autopsy on this motor. And I just wanted to take a second to talk about what we know and what we don't know. First of all, we know it is seized, quite seized. I've leaned on that bar trying to turn it clockwise and it's just not going to go. You could kind of feel it straining on the bolt. We don't want to snap that off. So it is in fact seized. If you turn it the other way, you just unwind the bolt, right? If you turn it counterclockwise. So let's do a couple of internals, then we'll go internally. We'll start taking it apart and see what went wrong. So beyond being seized, the sump is full of metal. I think you guys could see that in there, right? I mean, that's horrible. That just means something hand grenaded inside the motor. So metal in the crankcase, we're beginning to drift from a repair toward salvage. So what can we salvage? Take a quick look around here. We got a broken off bolt. Take a quick look here, and this is damage down here. So you don't have a million parts coming to you, but the stuff in here is valuable, right? The pulse generator, the advancer, there's a little pin that's worth $10, so you want to get that open. Unfortunately, I'm already fighting a bit of a losing battle here. You guys could see I put a cross into it, and I've been trying to spin this out. I've been having absolutely no luck. And even drilling it out, I'm having a bit of a battle because somebody broke off a Phillips in here before I got to it. This one was already missing, and somebody broke off something here. Probably good because it kept people from taking all this stuff away, but bad because now it's yet another battle. All this comes off in one piece, but I just as soon save this cover, right? I put a couple little scars into it. That could be patched up with, you know, liquid metal or whatever, and, you know, ground back into shape, painted gray. It'll be as good as new. But I do want to get in there without damaging it too much more. So let me fool around with this, and then we'll see what's cooking. Sometimes things just don't come off all that easy. So anyway. And they really don't. There you go. So, do I still have an advancer? No, she's seized up. Boy, this looks like it's going to be a fight every inch of the way. I mean, I got stuff growing in here. But here. Next, I got to take these out. I might as well assume they're seized, so I'm gonna start by spraying them right up front. Right, no use messing with those without trying to get a little oil on them. Gonna put the best bit on them and start out with the hammer gun, the light hammer gun. See if we can't tap them out. Alright, this just isn't going well, but you got to kind of go with it. If you can see in there, that's kind of really ugly. So I took these two outboard bolts off, gave it a little tap, and here it comes. Good. Got that much off, and wow, the timing chain is unnaturally tight. Somebody's been in here. Those don't look OEM. I'm gonna save that little thing. I got my my roach clip pliers right here. I'll grab onto that, wiggle it out, and try not to lose it. Now that that's off, I'm gonna pop these guys off, right? I think there are, yeah, 8 of them. the 4 Phillips and the 4, what are they, like 12 millimeter. And that'll allow us to get the skull cap off, and we'll see what went wrong up on top here. So 10 bolts later, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and actually that's loose. Let's make it 11 bolts later. So at this point, the skull cap's ready to come up. I might have to tap it a little bit. Then I can take the top of the head off, and we'll see how horrible it looks in there. Alright, I popped off the skull cap. It actually looks pretty clean in there. No big deal. Here's the cam. Cam actually looks pretty good. Right? No troubles there. So that's all nice. Right? The bearings look good. And top of the skull cap looks good. The followers, right? Nice and shiny. The adjusters, not mushroomed too bad. I'm thinking this top end looks pretty good. Hopefully we can save it. Notice I put this wire on the timing chain, right? We don't want to be dropping that in. Right, that's loose. So next up, we'll pop the remainder of the head off. I almost forgot to take the guide bolt out. You could be pulling on this thing forever and it's not coming loose. Alright, now it should just be a matter of lifting this right off. You know, nothing on this engine came easy. Well, that's never a good sign. Squirrel was living in there. I'm kidding, but right, this is never a good sign when they're weathered this badly. Right, the cam is out and this valve is still open. Oh, there's something stuck here, branch or something. Yeah, this is never a good sign. What I'm going to try to do is I am going to put a wrench here. A lot of times if you try to turn this, you could pop these loose and then you can tap the piston down. I'm a little nervous about where did all that metal come from now. That's never a good sign. If I could get the piston out of there and get it to turn, I could see if the transmission is still with us. Maybe save the bottom end, I don't know. We'll see. Getting the bolt off was easy enough. 17 millimeter reverse, it came right off. This is a Flywheel puller. Truly do recommend them. They cost somewhere around 20 bucks. You buy them on the internet and you just pick what motor you're after putting them on. The outer one threads in counterclockwise, and then the inner one threads in clockwise. I recommend for the initial start, you kind of put it in pretty good. Right, and now I'm just going to put my 17/16 and kind of lean on it a little bit. It should pop right out. I don't think I'm going to have to impact it. I lied. I actually had to put the impact to it, and even now it's still fighting me a bit here. Anyway, I'm going to have to mess with it a little bit. I left the washer on. That could be the problem. So anyhow, there we go. Yeah, that's a nice old set of coils. Some nice dirt. I believe I got to get these out of there. And there's another few bolts back here that I got to get off. Then we'll pull this plate. We can see the bottom of the crank, see what kind of trouble we're in, see perhaps what shed all that metal. So the 4 bolts are out and we're loose. Yeah, let me kind of drop that down there. And I don't see no problem on this side of the motor. It all looks pretty good. Well, I guess we'll keep taking her apart. Right, I mean, tiny chains right here. Right, she's still locked up. I tried to tap this up. It wasn't moving. So, yep, I think we'll pull the other side off and see what's cooking in there. To get a seized cylinder out of the bore is just not pretty. You got to do whatever you got to do to separate these. I ended up using a hammer and tapping it, and then wedges and so forth. You put a block onto the cylinder and you just hammer on this, and gradually you'll work the cylinder down. Hopefully you'll get the cylinder out of there, and then you could see kind of what's going on. You might be toward the end kind of hanging on to it from down here and wailing on it from the top. Be careful not to mess these up, and good luck. That's all I can do. So here we have it. We managed to bang the piston down here. I think like that's kind of a pretty normal looking piston on that guy, right? The rings are floating and loose. Seems pretty happy. This one here, when you see them with the lines like that, I think, try not to cast a shadow on it, I think this thing died of oil seizure and then weather finished it off. It might have been low compression and then sat out in the weather and locked up, but the piston itself is also locked on the wrist pin. So you guys could see the wrist pin is seized and the crank bearings are seized. I also found chunks of metal, right? And that's a good sized chunk of metal. So I think somebody was banging the gears. Anyway, I think it was run low on oil, because it may or may not have seized when it ran low on oil. There is some erosion on the bottom of the skirt. She might have lost compression at that point, and then it sat out in the weather until it seized up. What parts could we pull from this thing? I think, believe it or not, the head, cam, pulse generator, spark advancer, I think all that might still be alive. I think the flywheel and coils are still good. I'd have a tendency not to use the bottom end of this engine, though it might be alive for a little while. When you have chunks of gears like this floating around, I can't picture it's going to be alive for a long time. Yeah, right now it's in gear. Unfortunately, I really can't move the crank to kind of jiggle its way out of gear. So I'm going to assume the bottom end is no good. Believe it or not, the clutches didn't look half bad. Right. Though they seem to be pretty seized up also. Some of that might be able to get freed up. But there you go. Once again, I think it was run low on oil. And from there, it's seized, perhaps low on oil, or perhaps it's seized from sitting outside, right? You don't fill things up with bury things and lock valves on bury things if the valves aren't open. So it got weather into it, and I think that just finished it on off. Though there are parts here, how far do you have to carry it and how much you're going to pay for it? Knowing what I know about this engine and the condition it's in, believe it or not, I'd pay $50 for it, because between the parts you have right here, you can really take, you know, collect most of your 50 bucks. This cover's good. The shifter clutch linkage is good. You got an intake manifold. Yeah, I mean the gear plus a bunch of the bolts that hold it on. I'd pay 50 bucks for this thing. So there you go for even a value. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this autopsy video. There were a lot of problems, obviously, with seized bolts. Even all around the bolts were seized. This thing must have been sitting outside for quite a while. So I did manage to get them loose. We got it apart. We figured it out. And there we are. I want to thank everybody for watching this video. I need you all to keep your feet down, your heads up, and I need you to take a little better care of your stuff. At least try to turn it over once in a while. All right. Take care now, folks. Bye.